The European Neighbourhood Policy is a foreign relations instrument of the European Union which seeks to tie those countries to the east and south of the European territory of the EU to the Union. These countries, primarily developing countries, include some who seek to one day become either a member state of the European Union, or more closely integrated with the European Union. The ENP does not apply to neighbours of the EU's outermost regions, specifically France's territories in South America, but only to those countries close to EU member states' territories in mainland Europe. The countries covered include Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, the Palestinian Authority, Syria, Tunisia in the south and Armenia, Azerbaijan and Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine in the east. Russia has a special status with the EU-Russia common spaces instead of ENP participation. The EU offers financial assistance to countries within the European neighbourhood, so long as they meet the strict conditions of government reform, economic reform and other issues surrounding positive transformation. This process is normally underpinned by an action plan, as agreed by both Brussels and the target country. The ENP does not cover countries which are in the current EU enlargement agenda. The European Free Trade Association of the Western European microstates. The EU typically concludes association agreements in exchange for commitments to political, economic, trade, or human rights reform in a country. In exchange, the country may be offered tariff-free access to some or all EU markets, and financial or technical assistance. History. The European Union's European Neighbourhood Policy aims at bringing Europe and its neighbours closer. It was conceived after the 2004 enlargement of the European Union with 10 new member countries, in order to avoid creating new borders in Europe. It is also designed to prevent the emergence of new dividing lines between the enlarged EU and its neighbours. The vision is that of a ring of countries drawn into further integration, but without necessarily becoming full members of the European Union. The policy was first outlined by the European Commission in March 2003. The countries covered include Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, the Palestinian Authority, Syria, Tunisia in the south and Armenia, Azerbaijan and Belarus, Georgia, Moldova, Ukraine in the east. Russia has a special status with the EU-Russia common spaces instead of ENP participation. On the 25th of May 2011, the European Commission launched what it described as a new and ambitious European neighbourhood policy, backed by more than €1.2 billion in new funding, bringing the total to almost €7 billion. The main priorities and directions of a revitalised ENP strategy are set out in the joint communication by the European Commission and the High Representative for Foreign Affairs, titled A New Response to a Changing Neighbourhood. It seeks to strengthen individual and regional relationships between the EU and countries in its neighbourhood through a more funds for more reform approach, making more additional funds available, but with more mutual accountability. In the south, the first comprehensive policy for the region was the Euro-Mediterranean Partnership, a wide framework of political, economic and social relations between member states of the EU and countries of the southern Mediterranean. It was initiated on 27-28 November 1995 through a conference of ministers of foreign affairs, held in Barcelona. Besides the 28 member states of the European Union, the remaining Mediterranean partners are all other Mediterranean countries, including Libya. In the East, the Eastern Partnership is a policy initiative launched at the Prague Summit in May 2009 that aims to bring the 6 eastern neighbours, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, Republic of Moldova and Ukraine, closer to the EU. It represents the eastern dimension of the ENP and strengthens bilateral relations between the EU and its partners. In March 2015, the European Commission launched a review of the principles on which the policy is based, as well as its scope and how its instruments should be used. The consultation follows 4 priorities: differentiation, focus, flexibility, ownership and visibility. A communication setting out proposals for the future direction of the ENP will follow in autumn. Funding the policy from ENPI to ENI, giving incentives and rewarding best performers, as well as offering funds in a faster and more flexible manner, are the 2 main principles underlying the European Neighbourhood Instrument that came into force in 2014. It has a budget of €15.4 billion and provides the bulk of funding through a number of programs. The ENI, effective from 2014 to 2020, replaces the European Neighbourhood and Partnership Instrument, known as the ENPI. This cooperation instrument continues to be managed by DG Development and Cooperation, Europe.The, which turns decisions taken on a political level into actions on the ground. ENPI funding approved for the period 2007 to 2013 was €11.2 billion. Kazakhstan's foreign ministry has expressed interest in the ENP, and some MEPs have also discussed Kazakhstan's inclusion in the ENP. The EU Neighbourhood Info Centre was launched in January 2009 by the European Commission to make more known the relationship between the EU and its neighbours. Agreements. In recent history, such agreements are signed as part of 2 EU policies: Stabilisation and Association Process and European Neighbourhood Policy. The countries of the Mediterranean and the East European EU neighbours are covered by ENP through the External Relations Directorate General. In the ENP association agreements, there is no mention of EU membership. This is a concern only to the European ENP states, because for the Mediterranean it is obvious that they cannot join the Union in its current form because they are not located in Europe. The ENPAAs are similar to the partnership and cooperation agreements signed with CIS states in the 1990s and the multiple other AAs governing the relations between the EU and other third countries. The ENP stipulates that after signing of AA with a particular country, the EU will make a country report, and then the 2 sides will agree on an action plan drafted by the EU for the next 3 to 5 years. Both the SAA and ENP are based mostly on the EU's acquis communautaire and its promulgation in the cooperating states' legislation. Of course, the depth of the harmonization is less than for full EU members, and some policy areas may not be covered. According to EU-Observer, the ENP countries may be divided into 2 groups: European states with explicitly stated EU membership possibility for the long term, and Mediterranean states with no such statement in the action plans. This division is obvious in the 2 groups for multilateral activities that are meant to supplement the bilateral ENP action plans: the Eastern Partnership and the Union for the Mediterranean. Association agreements have to be ratified by all the EU member states. AA signed with the Mediterranean states also include a free trade agreement between the EU and the third country. For the East European EU neighbours covered by the ENP, such provisions are expected for some of the next action plan periods. Criticism. Although the Eastern Partnership was inaugurated on 7 May 2009, academic research critically analysing the policy became available by early 2010. Research findings from a UK ESRC research project examining the EU's relations with 3 Eastern Partnership member states, namely Belarus, Ukraine, and Moldova, notes both conceptual and empirical dilemmas. First, conceptually the EU has limited uniform awareness of what it is trying to promote in its eastern neighbourhood under the aegis of shared values, collective norms, and joint ownership. Secondly, empirically, the EU seems to favour a top-down governance approach in its relations with outsiders, which is clearly at odds with a voluntary idea of partnership, and explicitly limits the input of the other in the process of reform. The Arab Spring in North Africa has shed light on the close personal and business ties between governing elites in EU member states and their Mediterranean counterparts. For example, French Foreign Minister Michel Alliot-Marie was forced to resign due to public outrage over her links to the ousted Ben Ali regime in Tunisia. In 2008, the EU tried to negotiate an association agreement with Libya and earmarked €60 million in ENPI funds to the country over the 2011 to 2013 period. Status. Sources: ENP official page statistics. Academic policy papers. Building a Stronger Eastern Partnership Towards an EAP 2.0. Global Europe Centre, University of Kent, September 2013. Belarus and the Eastern Partnership, a National Values Survey. Global Europe Centre, University of Kent, October 2013. Moldova's Value Survey, Widening a European Dialogue in Moldova. Global Europe Centre, University of Kent, January 2014. Books. Korosteleva, E. A. The European Union and its Eastern Neighbours Towards a More Ambitious Partnership. London, BASEES, Routledge Series on Russian and East European Studies, ISBN 0-415-612-616. Korosteleva, E. A. Eastern Partnership, A New Opportunity for the Neighbours. London, Routledge, ISBN 0-415-67607-X. Korosteleva, E. A. The Eastern Partnership, Problems and Perspectives. Minsk, Belarusian State University. Academic Journal articles. Estebar Bay and Elizabeth Johansson Neguez. The EU as a Modest Force for Good. The European Neighbourhood Policy, International Affairs, Volume 84, No. 1, pp. 81-96. Elena Korosteleva, Belarusian Foreign Policy in a Time of Crisis, Journal of Communist Studies and Transition Politics, Special Issue, 27, 2011, pp. 566-86. Elena Korosteleva, Change of Continuity. Is the Eastern Partnership an adequate tool for the European Neighbourhood? International Relations, 25, 2011, pp. 243-62. Elena Korosteleva, Eastern Partnership, A New Opportunity for the Neighbours. Journal of Communist Studies and Transition Politics, Special Issue, 27, 2011, pp. 1-21. Wolfgang Tide and Jacob Schirmer, Strategische Notwendigkeit Diöstliche Partnerschaft der Europäischen Union in World Trends, 71 2010, pp. 10-14. Elena Korosteleva, Moldova's European Choice Between Two Stools, Europe-Asia Studies, Volume 62 2010, p. 1267-89. Elena Korosteleva, The Limits of EU Governance, Belarus's Response to the European Neighbourhood Policy, Contemporary Politics, Volume 15, No. 2, June 2009, pp. 229-45. Elena Korosteleva and Giselle Bost, Changing Belarus. The Limits of EU Governance in Eastern Europe, Conflict and Cooperation, Volume 44, No. 2 2009, pp. 143-65. Wolfgang Tide and Jacob Schirmer. Die Ausländische Partnerschaft Europäischen Union im Rahmen des Gemeinschaftsrechts in Osteuropa Recht 2009, Volume 2, pp. 184–191. Book chapters. Wolfgang Tide and Jacob Schirmer. The EU's Eastern Partnership, Objectives and Legal Basis, in the European Legal Forum, 3 2009, pp. 168–174.